Hello, students. Welcome to today's class. This class is a continuation of our last lesson on squares and square roots. Okay, in today's class, we're going to be looking at cube roots and cube. So, we're going to be looking at cube and cube root of numbers. However, before we proceed, we will take a quick review of the last lesson. In our last lesson, we talked about square and square roots. We said the square of a number is the number obtained by multiplying a number by itself twice. Or multiply a number by itself twice, the result we get is the square of that number. Let's take a look at this example. So, what is the square of 7? So the square of 7, written as 7 raised to power 2, or 7 with a small 2 at the top. We talked about this in the last class. You should understand how to write this now. This means multiply 7 by itself. 7 multiplying 7 twice. So if 7 multiply itself twice, we'll have 49. So the square of 7 is 49. We also talked about square root. So we said the square root of a number is that number that multiplies itself twice to give us the number in question. So let's take, for instance, 144. Find the square root of 144. Square root of 144. From the last class, you should know that this is the symbol for square root. So we're looking for the square root of 144. And from our table of squares and square roots, we know that when we multiply 12 by 12, what we get is 144, which means the square root of 144 should be 12. Why is it 12? Because 12 is that number which will multiply twice to give us 144. Let's take this example. This example says calculate. It says root 6 squared times 4 squared. Calculate root 6 squared times 4 squared. Okay, so we're going to write out the square roots and the squares. So we're going to take the squares first before we'll take the square root. We know that 6 times 6, that is the 6 square on the left. This 6 square is 6 times 6, which gives us 36. And this 4 square is 4 multiplying itself twice. That will be 16. So which means the square root is actually saying 36 times 16. 36 times 16. If 6 times 6 gives us 36, what that means that 6 squared is equal to 36. Okay, now if we're going from right to left, this means that the root of 36 is equal to 6, and the reason is because it's the 6 square that gave us 36. Okay, if 4 times 4 here give us 16, it means that the square root of 16 is equal to 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, so let's go back to the question. The question says, right now we're at root 36 times, root 16. Okay, so since 6 times 6 is 36, it means that square root of 36 is 6. Okay, times, if 4 times 4 is 16, it means that the square root of 16 is 4. So this evaluates into 6 times 4. Notice that the square root symbol is no longer there because we've already taken the square root of 36 to give us 6 and the square root of 16, which gave us 4. So 6 times 4 is equal to 24. Okay, so that means that the square root of 6 squared plus times 4 squared is equal to 24. So now that we have rounded up squares and square roots, let's not talk about cube of numbers. When we talk about the cube of numbers, cube is the value we get when a number multiplies itself 3 times. When a number multiplies itself 3 times, the value we get is called the cube of that particular number. Take for instance, cube of 1 is 1 times 1 times 1. 1 multiplying itself 3 times, and that will be 1. The cube of 2 will be 2 times 2 times 2. So cube of 2 is 8. That is 2 multiplying itself 3 times will give you 8. Okay. What about cube of 3? That will be 3 times 3 times 3. Okay. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. So what we're trying to say that the cube of a number is the value we get when we multiply that number by itself 3 times. Remember, when we multiply by itself 2 times, it is a square. When we multiply by itself 3 times, it is cube. Okay, so how do we write cube in mathematics? In mathematics, we write cube by placing a small 3 on top the number we want to cube. So take for instance, if we want to write 4 cube, 4 cube will be written as 4 and then a 3 at the top. Okay, this is 4 cube. That is 4 times 4 times 4. If we want to write 5 cube, that will be 5 times 5 times 5. So anytime you see a small 3 written on top of a number, that stands for cube. That means multiply that number 3 times. Okay, so let's look at cube root. Okay, so cube root is the opposite of cube. And when we say cube root means that number that multiplies itself 3 times will give us another number. So from what we have on the screen, we can see that when we multiply 3 by itself 3 places, we'll have 27. What this means that the cube root of 27 is equal to 3. Why? Because it is 3 that can multiply itself 3 times to give us 27. So the cube root of a number is that number that can multiply itself 3 times to give you the number inside the cube root sign. Notice that there is a 3 on the sign. Okay, in square root, you just write this sign. Okay, this sign here means square root, but when we write this sign with a 3 there, it means cube root. Please, we don't write like that. This is not cube root. Okay, the 3 has to be there, okay, for it to be cube root. All right, so let's take a few examples. Let's take a few examples on cube and cube root. Cube and cube root. So in the first example, we have find the cube of 15. Find the cube of 15. So cube of 15 can be written as 15 raised by 3, and that is same as 15 times 15 times 15. Okay, 15 times 15. You can check up on the table. You can check up on the table of cube roots. You can check up on the table of cubes, or you can multiply out yourself. 5 times 5 is 25. And then we'll carry 2. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2, we have 7. 1 times 5 is 5 there. 1 times 1 is 1. So we have 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. Carry 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So 15 times 15 is 225. Okay, now that we have 225, we're going to multiply by another 15. Remember, 15 is multiplying itself 3 times. We'll multiply by 15 twice, we get 225. So we're multiplying the third one. 5 times 5 is 25. We'll write 5 and we carry 2. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2, 12. And then we carry 1. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1. We have 11. Okay, so 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. So here we have 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. 1 plus 3, 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 plus 2 is 3. So have 3, 3, 7, 5. So in the next example, we're going to look at find the cube root. Find the cube of 3 over 5 raised to power 3. Find the cube of that. Okay, so we want to find the cube of these. This number is a fraction, and for a fraction, this means that 3 is cubed and 5 is also cubed. You can see the bracket. Both 3 and 5 are cubed. So if you have equation, the fraction is enclosed in a bracket, and then there is a square or a cube. That's a value, whether it's a square or cube, will affect both the numerator and denominator. So what this value means is 3 cube and 5 cube. So the cube affects both the 3 and the 5. Take note of that. 3 cube means 3 times 3 times 3, and 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27. 5 cube means 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 again is 125. So we have 27 over 125. Cube means multiply a number by itself 3 times. Okay, let's look at some examples on cube root. Okay, in this example, we're asked to find the cube root of 729. Find the cube root of 729. So in this example, we have the cube root of 729. We tried the method of prime factorization when we talked about squares. So we can also try prime factorization when numbers become large and probably we don't have access to the table. Okay, so let's use the method of prime factorization. Let me teach you how to use prime factorization to get the cube root of a particular number. So in this case, we have 729. Remember the 3 steps for finding square root. It's also similar to finding cube root. We write the symbol and then we'll write 729 on the right, and then we try to divide this number using prime numbers. Okay, so can 2 divide 729? No, because 729 ends in 9, which is an odd number. So we're going to try 3. Is it possible that 3 can divide 729? Yes, 3 can divide 729. I've told you, if you want to know if a number can divide another number, you have to read up test for divisibility. I have a lesson on that. Please read up that. So it's easy for you to look at a number and know if 2 can divide it, or 3 can divide it, or 4 can divide it, and so on. So if 729 is divided by 3, our result is going to be 243. If you don't know how to divide at this point, then take my course or my lesson, take my lesson on division and know how to divide. Okay, so 234, we also try to divide by 2. No, it's not going to work. Can 3 divide it? Yes. If 243 is divided by 3, we get 81. So can 81 be divided by 2? No. Can 81 be divided by 3? Yes. So if 81 is divided by 3, we get 27. Okay, always make sure you go through this division. Okay, I have a very good lesson on how to use multiplication to perform division. Okay, if I start doing the division of each of these steps in this division, this video is going to get too long. So if you find it difficult dividing, please take the lesson on division. Okay, so let's move ahead. Can 27 be divided by 2? No. Can 27 divided by 3? Yes. What does that give us? 9, because 3 times 9 is 27. Okay, so quickly we know 9 can be divided by 3 to give us 3, and 3 can be divided by 3 to give us 1. Once we get to 1, we stop the division and we take all of these numbers we use at some point to divide. So what this means is that if we want to write 729 as a prime factor, we can write it as 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, so look at these. Just like we did in the squares, we paired in twos because square means a number multiplying itself twice. So for cube, you mean a number multiplying itself 3 times. So we're going to pair in threes. This is where cube is different from squares when we talk about prime factorization. Otherwise they are the same. So we pair 3 times 3 times 3. So that's one pair. And then we'll have another 3 times 3 times 3. So what do we do with this pair? For each of the pairs, we'll take out one of the factors. For the first pair, we take out 3. The second pair, coincidentally, is also 3. So we'll take out another 3. 3 times 3 gives us 9. So what that means that the cube root of 729 is 9. And what this means is that if 9 multiplies itself in 3 places, it's going to give us 729. Okay? So remember that cube means a number multiplying itself 3 places. The cube root of a number is a number that multiplies itself in 3 places to give us that number in question. Okay, so we're going to go into some exercises using my CBT software, and we're going to take some exercises and see how much we can score. Okay, I'll see you.